I'm Peter, or Peter as you like. Would you like to check out some Roman remains with me? Okay, let's go. We have to drive 15 minutes probably.
We're driving to the Archaeological Park Bliesbruck-Reinheim. It's an archaeological site with Roman remains, a Roman villa, a Roman vicus, a little village, and it's a collaboration between France and Germany to discover and present these remains. It has been discovered first in the 1950s, and since then the work goes on. Well, we have arrived.
I think I don't need a jacket today, but I need my hat. It's my scientist's hat. Julius Caesar is to blame for the fact that the Romans lived here. 58 BC, Wednesday morning, after a soggy breakfast, he began to conquer Gaul. Caesar was an aspiring dictator who wanted to secure his power through a spectacular military victory. Lasted until 51 BC, and finally all Gaul was defeated and pacified. This shows what a messy breakfast can do. Gaul was the area between the Atlantic Ocean and the Rhine River, roughly the size of today's France, plus the German areas on the left bank of the Rhine. The inhabitants of Gaul were, yes, Gauls. We know the Gauls better under the name Celts or Celtic people, as the Greeks called them. Considering that the language of the Romans, Latin, is no longer spoken, but Celtic languages are, for example, still spoken in Ireland, Scotland and Wales, it looks like a late victory. Fair enough. We are now at the Archaeological Park Bliesbruck-Reinheim. Behind me you can see the Roman villa, and behind the trees down there's the Roman village called Roman vicus, and we go there later. So we have to cross the French border then. Roman stone buildings here were not built until the 1st century AD. About 100 years after the conquest by Caesar, but there were probably wooden predecessor buildings. And as I said before, the inhabitants here were mostly Romanized Celts, not Romans from Italy. Roman villas were large estates that were supposed to generate products for the surrounding area and profits for their owner. The residential building of a villa, where we are right now, was designed as an atrium house with a large courtyard. Around the partially covered courtyard ran walkways with columns, as can be seen here. The eastern wing of this manor house, here in the picture, there were probably utility rooms. In the center of the complex is the already mentioned courtyard, which also served as a representative reception hall. I hope it is clear that of all the rooms only the foundation walls are preserved. In the west wing, where we are now, the owner of the villa lived with his family. This can be seen, for example, in this room with the semicircular wall, quite typical of a Roman bath. From these facilities it can be seen that the people who lived here belonged to a Gallo-Roman upper class. Here is a Roman cellar where perhaps valuable supplies were kept. Such cellars could also serve cultic, religious purposes. What we see here is the hypocaust, the boiler room of a Roman underfloor heating system, as it was common. Slaves had to ensure that the living quarters of the owner family were always kept comfortably warm. Of course, such a wealthy property also included a beautiful garden in which everything grew that pleases a Romanized heart. So far we have only seen the residential building of the villa. It also included a very large farmyard. We are just moving there, and in front of us, in the distance, you can see the gate building of the complex. The farmyard was enclosed by a wall, and on both sides of the courtyard, in the west and in the east, 6 buildings were symmetrically attached to the wall. As we can see, some of the buildings are currently being rebuilt. The already completed outbuilding in the picture has been standing for several years. This is obviously being excavated at the moment, perhaps to reconstruct this building soon, as well as the building next to it. This is the gate building we just saw from distance. It served less for fortification purpose than for representation. I excavated this gate in 2004, I think, and in my opinion it's wrongly reconstructed. There is another secret. The Christian church, which is built at least 1,000 years later, is exactly in the axis of the Roman villa. Why? The mystery of the Christian church in the axis of the villa can be solved. When the church was built, the villa had already crumbled, so it cannot be aligned with the axis, but it's there. This may mean that the church was built on an old pagan sanctuary. Accordingly, the villa had aligned itself with the sanctuary. That's how the effect comes about. We now move on the old Roman road that passed the gate of the villa and now walk over to France to the vicus. This point here marks the French-German border. Germany, France. Again. On the map you can roughly see where we have been. This is the Roman villa where we started, on a hill here. Then we went through the Roman villa. And this is, we went here, and this is where we are now. This picture shows you how it could have looked 2,000 years ago. This is the Roman villa, and this is the vicus, the village. So here we are at the Roman vicus, a small village or town. The buildings are terraced houses on a street. Just like today, there were shops and stores on the ground floor, and people lived on upper floor. The course of today's road follows exactly the course of the Roman road from almost 2000 years ago, only on a higher level because of the dirt and the dust of the centuries. Here we see what we already know from the Roman villa, Roman underfloor heating. And another one here. A Roman oven. And another basement room. No poor people lived here either. This is what a street might have looked like. Or if you prefer the comic strip version, at the center of the vicus was a large public bathhouse that was open to everyone and free of charge. You can see for yourself when you're in the area. But if that's the middle of the city, that must mean there's a lot more underground. And that's probably how it is. The excavations here will certainly continue for a long time, at least as long as there is money for it. Okay, this is the end of my short trip to the Archaeological Kulturpark Bliesbruck-Reinheim. Link in the description. Please tell me if you enjoyed the video and write in the comments if you want to see other videos like this. I try to make this video in English because most of German speakers understand English, but most of English speakers don't understand German. Please write me if you think that's okay like that, or should I probably speak German with English subtitles? It's a cold wind.